Congressman Tim Burchett gave an interview to News Nation yesterday where he clarified on many things that he has been saying over the past few weeks. He's been making the rounds on the media, and he has said a lot. And the most shocking thing that was stated lately was the alien-human hybrid breeding program, something that Matt Gaetz brought up before him just a couple of weeks ago in an interview with Benny Johnson, and Nancy Mace brought up the exact same thing in a congressional hearing. I believe it was her. Maybe it was Anna Paulina Luna. I don't remember. One of them brought it up at a congressional hearing on UAPs. It's been a while since I watched it. Long story short, though, there is now at least 3 sitting government representatives who have brought up alien-human hybrid breeding programs where allegedly third worlders, caravan members are being abducted and put into these programs. If I had to guess, it may be something like MKUltra 2, where people that wouldn't be missed that are U.S. citizens could even also be being thrown into these programs. And if so, that is massive and needs to come out either way, regardless of who is being abducted. That's not right. And if this is happening, we deserve to know about it because it means that there are aliens here. With that being said, though, we're going to go ahead and dive into his interview, see if we can read between the lines a bit on what he's saying, understand the clarifications he's making, and maybe we can glean a little bit of information out of it. After that, we'll go ahead and hop into a couple pieces of UFO footage that I want to share with you guys, one of them being one that I found through Arrow that I find quite interesting, and another one that was sent to me by my friend the Hidden Underbelly 2.0 that he found on Reddit that I thought was decent as well, and that'll be linked down in the video description, so go check his original video out at the end of the video, please. A friend of the channel for a long time, and I would love to send him any support that I can. There will be, by the way, a live stream between me and him on 4/20, April 20th, and we are going to be hanging out and watching UFO stuff and discussing all matter of paranormal UFO things. With that said, let's go ahead and hop into the interview.
That briefing, it seems like you were a bit of a changed man after that. Talk to me about what the feeling was after.
Well, I've had multiple briefings, and I guess, I get a lot of doubters, and people make fun of me, members of Congress. Which is kind of ironic because there's always the guy in the crowd that makes a joke about it after somebody else does, and they come up to me and say, "Man, I need to tell you something. I'm in the military, or I saw something, or got a lot of people interested in this issue." But and I've had so many of these briefings now. I even had one since the one that you're describing. I had that was a member of our leadership arranged, which tells you the serious nature of this thing. Yeah. And I just think people need to know what we've seen and what these pilots are seeing. And Luna, for instance, we requested all those videos, and she is, gave kind of a deadline when she'd like to have them by, and she calls over there, and they say, "Well, we don't know anything about the letter," kind of stuff. The same.
For those of you who don't know, Anna Paulina Luna wrote a letter to I believe the Department of Defense, saying that she wanted them to hand over this list of UFO footage that we know you have, and you guys need to hand it over by this date, or basically, I don't know, I think she said there'd be consequences, something along those lines, and they apparently didn't hand them over, and then claimed that they never even saw the letter, which is bubkiss, because I saw the letter. It was public. Everybody knew about it. They knew that there was a letter. They just didn't want to comply with it. So clearly something weird is going on there. They're covering up something.
Well, stuff you and I've run into for years on this issue, and America's just ready. I think they would they'd be alarmed about what it is, and I think mostly they'd be alarmed at why the government won't allow it out.
Yeah.
And what's at the base of it. And
he did say like a week ago that if we knew what he knew, that the entirety of the country would come unglued. And if it is that astounding, I want to know more now. I want to know what this is. What is visiting our planet? What is causing this? What are we seeing in our skies and our oceans? What is playing, dog fighting with our fighter jets? What is going on here? I want to know what it is, because not only for the sake of national security, but for the sake of humanity as a whole. If we are being visited by extraterrestrials or non-human intelligence in general, whether it be interdimensional entities, what have you, whatever you think they are, we deserve to know about it as people, as humans. We should all have at least the basic knowledge that something is indeed visiting us that's not human, and that we are not the only life form out there.
All the theories aside, whether you think it's extraterrestrial, if it's something from this earth, if it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans, which I don't think it is.
It's not.
and then maybe allow some of the pilots to talk and tell exactly what they've seen. And the last briefing, I had some pretty incredible photos, and I think that you should have the right to see those.
Yeah.
And the critics are going to blast it. They're going to say it's AI, it's whatever, but you got to.
Why would they say it's AI? The government releases photos. Oh, it's AI. Everything is AI now. It's such a cop-out excuse. Not everything is AI. Anytime somebody doesn't like something now, oh, it's AI. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's like, well, then what's real anymore then? AI is now blurring the lines between reality and fiction so much that people are using it as an excuse to say that things they don't like aren't real or aren't actually happening. It's crazy.
Got to go back and ask yourself, why would some of the best pilots in the world, why would they risk their credibility to come out with this? Because anytime they make a sighting, a lot of times they'd have to get a psych evaluation, get all this stuff, and even if it's something they saw on radar. But now we've got...
They can get grounded. They can lose their career. They can get psych evaluated as like just the beginning of it. Paperwork out the ass. You don't want to be involved in that as a pilot. That's why most of these sightings go unreported to begin with, because the pilots want nothing to do with this, because of the stigma surrounding this entire topic. So yeah, most likely most of these things that pilots have been seeing are not even being reported to begin with.
Officers in the Navy seeing these very, very large objects on sonar traveling at a very high rate of speed, something that's exponentially faster than anything we can accomplish. You got to realize that you got an object out there in the ocean that hovers, above the ocean in the air, that hovers for, could be hours on end. We have nothing with that capability. You have to you'd run out of fuel. And then when they take off, they just, maybe straight up, and the power to do that is the energy it'd take to fuel Los Angeles. I mean,
it's not even just on like over the oceans or flying from the ocean level to straight up to space, which is already incredible, but they're also doing speeds under the ocean that our fastest submarines cannot do. They are acting like water is a non-obstacle to them. It's like they're traveling through a different dimension while still appearing in our own dimension, and they're just cutting through this water like it's not even there. They're achieving speeds of hundreds of knots in some cases, as seen on Navy sonar by submarines that they obviously don't want this getting out, but we've had people like, I think Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who has came on record and stated that indeed we have seen USOs, as they're called, unidentified submerged objects, that are going at absurdly fast speeds that we simply cannot do. It is beyond human capability, and the amount of energy it would take to not only do that but just fly straight to space up over 80,000 plus feet in a second, it's unreal. It is. You would need an absurd amount of energy that we simply cannot do or put onto a single craft. And even if we could do it, the amount of G-force that would generate with our means of propulsion would flatten whoever was inside of that craft.
It is that incredible, and I just don't see any reason why our government should be hiding it. And I don't like going into a meeting and an unelected bureaucrat tells us that the president is on a need or no basis. To me, that should be very telling.
I've been saying that on this channel for a very long time. The president doesn't know everything. There are people in the background that are running things, I think mostly in the CIA at this point, that are behind all of this. The reason I say that the CIA, I believe, is the ones behind most of this stuff is because of something Lou Elizondo said, where him and his team at, I believe it was ATIP at the time, maybe ALSAP, I don't remember. It's the same program. It just keeps changing acronyms over and over again. But his program, when he was leading it, was in 2008 trying to get a UAP from, I believe it was Lockheed Martin. They were going through like court dealings to get them to hand it over, and the CIA stepped in and blocked the entire thing as a matter of national security, saying that they were not allowed to have this craft. So the CIA knows a lot about this, it seems, and they are most likely the ones responsible for the third-party government contractors even getting possession of these craft to avoid FOIA requests. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a Freedom of Information Act request where essentially the government can be asked for specific records on things, and sometimes, like the CIA, if you ask for something that's a matter of national security that they don't want to talk about, they'll say we can either confirm or deny that this information even exists, which usually is just a way of saying it does, but we can't talk about it. But they were so scared of a FOIA request that they handed off to third-party non-government contractors who are not subject to FOIA. That way, you can't simply get the information out of them. They're not obligated to hand that info over to you.
To America, that there's there's a lot more going on with this behind the scenes than we're aware.
And you've heard that directly.
Sure, absolutely,
That's
absolutely. And you know, and I know Matt Gaetz spoke a couple weeks ago about a briefing he had on a breeding thing between alien life, but he didn't say he'd seen it. He didn't say it was fact. He just said that it was discussed with him by a member of the military.
This is a big thing that's been brought up now by several different people. Tim Burchett has brought it up. Obviously, Matt Gaetz, who was a congressman, brought it up. We had, I believe it was it Nancy Mace, I think, brought it up, or maybe it was Anna Paulina Luna. I don't remember which one of them. I think it was Nancy Mace, though, brought it up at one of these congressional hearings on UAPs. This seems to be a reoccurring thing that the government is working with these alien beings and making human-alien hybrids by abducting third worlders and people from like migrant caravans, things like that, places where people won't go, won't be missed if they disappeared. And maybe even from the U.S., who knows? They haven't said anything about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if people with no family have just gone missing, similar to these missing 11 scientists and, nuclear scientists and space scientists that have gone missing, who many, it seems, could have had connections to the UAP topic or maybe worked on things that were related to this. It's very much possible this could be an MK Ultra Tuskegee experiment type thing where these people are just up and vanishing and nobody knows better. They're just like, well, it's another missing person. A lot of people in the United States go missing every year, and I wouldn't be surprised if this program is real if they were going missing as well and being abducted into this program. Now, I just want to clarify too that in this topic, it has been a long time thing where abduction victims supposedly have been describing having their sexual reproductive organs, their genetic code, if you will, taken and used to create alien human hybrid babies on board these alien craft. And if this is true, if that is the case, then there is not only now government members that have been saying it, but a reoccurring theme among abductees throughout the last 80 years or so where that could lend credence to this program actually existing.
And have I heard those things? Oh, sure, I've heard those before, but I haven't seen anything. And I have my own beliefs about it, but about all the what's going on. Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm right or wrong. I just think it's time for America to get this stuff, get this information.
What can you share about that briefing that really made you come out and say people would be shocked to see this? Can you tell us about
well, it was. I can tell you that just because everything I asked about, because there was someone in there in the meeting I felt like that was there to disrupt, to maybe say that this person was not telling the truth. And again, this person had no reason to lie to us. It was in the skiff, of course, so I'm very limited on anything I can really say about it. But
even in government briefings and skiffs, they're bringing in disinformation agents like Rick Doty to essentially dissuade the congressman from looking further. There is something here, guys. When there's smoke, there's fire.
But they said, I gave certain incidences that had occurred and or that I'd heard occur. And they could name dates, people, places, and to me it was very convincing. And I knew some of it, and they filled in the gaps. And these were things that there was no hesitation whatsoever. There was no, it wasn't anything like that. It was just straightforward. And then when this person asked these questions, I felt like they were to disrupt and contradict what they were saying. And went just a complete 180. Yeah. And that's what you're going to have, because you're going to have members of Congress who want to, for whatever reason, they don't want the truth, or they know it, and there's a certain arrogance up here too. You got to admit that. I mean, there's a complete arrogance. And again, I don't know if it's about little green men or flying saucers. I just know we're spending tens of millions of dollars on something. I think we should know what the heck we're spending that money on. And when they bring it all out, just let people make up their own minds, because there's going to be a group that's going to say, and look, I'm a born again Christian. I'm from the forgiven end of that spectrum, but I'm not worried about the demonic element. I hear people say that, but there's no reason for demons to be doing this. It's such a small little area. I mean, they could come up here to Congress as easy as maybe they already have. I don't know. But, and do I think it's the Chinese or the Russians? And I go back over this. If it was the Russians, they wouldn't be bogged down in Ukraine. If it's the Chinese, they'd own us. Some would argue, as I've stated, they own us already, but more so. And would it be the Americans? Why in the world would we risk a $500 million high-tech aircraft or a fleet of aircraft or a battleship or something to be around these things and a pilot losing their life when we just saw, rightfully so, the president spent millions of dollars to rescue a pilot. Yeah. You know, we did not, and there's no telling what that cost, but that's
no, we would not do that. We would not fly these sorts of secret test missions if we had this sort of technology around conventional Top Gun pilot test missions, or not test missions, but training missions. It simply wouldn't happen. We wouldn't put soldiers' lives at risk like that, risking some of our best men and some of our expensive, obviously we know about it, publicly known jets. That simply just wouldn't happen. The government is not going to go out of its way to risk billions of dollars in equipment simply to test alien technology or whatever they have, even if it's ours. Maybe it's not alien, maybe it's something crazy we created. But even if we had that tech, they're not going to test that in front of anybody, most likely. And they're definitely not going to put pilots at risk like that. No, there's no way. This cannot be from another country. This stuff is so far beyond humanity's capabilities right now. It's insane. There's just no chance that this is from us. I've heard people try to say that, Lockheed Martin made something similar to the Tic Tac that can do some of the things it did. But it's not traveling at those speeds, and there's obviously a means of propulsion coming off of it. It's not like it's defying gravity. I've seen the videos of it. That's not what Fravor saw.
It's a signal to the rest of the world and to our people that we value life. So there's no reason for us to be doing that. And I won't go too far into it, but I've talked to folks that are at the highest levels, and they will tell you that they've asked the one higher up level in the whole security paradigm, I guess, and they've indicated that it is definitely not them.
So
there you go.
That sort of transitions me well to my next question, which is that we've heard rumors about President Trump potentially preparing for some level of disclosure about...
And I believe that. I had that very conversation with him.
So where is he on that? Is he ready to do that? And a follow-up on that before you get to it is, let's say he makes some kind of statement during the war with Iran. Do you think that sort of undermines, people might say, well, he's trying to distract?
They're always going to say he's distracting. This is just a distraction. And the best day to release this stuff was yesterday. And the second best day to release it is right now.
So is he...
The best day to release this stuff was 80 years ago when we actually first obtained this stuff. Now is just, we're 80 years late to the party. It needs to come out already.
I hope so. I think he's not beholden to that community.
Yeah.
And,
but you've talked to him about it. What's your feeling on whether he's ready?
Well, I don't generally publicly discuss too much what I discussed with the president about, because that could end up, he wouldn't talk to me as freely as he does when we talk. But we talked 14 minutes. I was looking at my watch and I was like, holy cow, it's 14 minutes. It was about a lot of things, but I told him, I said, it's like layers of the onion, Mr. President. I said, you just keep peeling it back. Yeah, you put the 1 and 2 people in there, but these lifetime career people are in there, and for whatever reason, they're not releasing anything. And also,
that is something I have been saying on this channel for a very long time, that lifetime career bureaucrats are the ones controlling all of this and have been controlling this stuff since it first came to Earth and first started happening. This is something that the government bureaucrats have been in control of, and no elected official has all the answers on this. The only people that truly have all the answers on this are some unelected bureaucrats who maybe they don't even have all the answers, but they have enough to know that they don't want it out. And they think the reason they do this is because they think, well, my job is permanent. The president leaves every 4 years. Congress can leave every 2 years. They think that because of that they are special and that they should have the information because their job's not going anywhere, and that the other people, when they leave, might spill the beans or something. And that's not how our government is supposed to function.
I feel like the material or whatever it's out there that we don't really have it anymore because they farmed it out to these corporations, and these corporations are not FOIAble. Freedom of Information Act is for the people back home. It's when
I explained this earlier. You can't FOIA a corporation. So yeah, he's pretty much saying exactly what I said earlier in the video.
I can say, hey, FBI, release this stuff. I want to see this stuff. And under FOIA, allegedly, they're supposed to release it. But say a Ford Motor Company had it, they wouldn't have to release it. And I feel like that's what's happened to a lot of it. And a lot of the stuff we've seen is that I think that we have is probably the people that are dissecting it or whatever they're doing with it probably don't realize exactly what it is or where it came from. They might have an idea, but people with direct knowledge are mostly gone. So it's kind of like during at Oak Ridge during the Second World War. I've met people. I met this one guy I met one time. I was out knocking on doors, and he was of my parents' age, and I asked him what branch he was in because he was putting his American flag out, and he said, "Well, I wasn't in the war." And I said, oh, "Okay," and he was kind of sheepish about it, and he said, "I worked at Oak Ridge," and I was like, if my dad were here, he'd hug you because Daddy was on Okinawa when they dropped the bomb. They thought they were going to invade Japan. They're getting.
I just want to say, yeah, that he's correct. That anybody who would have the direct information on this stuff from 80 years ago or so, either they're really old and dying or they're already dead. They're most likely no longer around. The people who had all the answers are just not with us anymore to ask. And they probably didn't tell anybody in their families because it's national security and they can get in a lot of trouble if they speak out. Say they tell their family member runs their mouth to somebody else that they shouldn't have. Then the secrets get out and then they can link it back to them. So obviously there's a lot of incentive to keep your mouth closed when it comes to this sort of thing. There's also the long-standing code of conduct around people in this type of position. I'm not going to get into specifics on how I know that your own family wouldn't know this sort of thing. I may have a family member who is a famous government scientist who never told us anything, who might have even been directly involved in this sort of thing. I'm not going to explain too much about that, but long story short, he never told anything to his family about what he was doing, what he was working on until it was declassified because matters of national security. That's just how the government operates. That's how the people within the government have to operate. If they didn't, then our nuclear secrets would have been out to the public a long time ago.
Getting ready to his first Marine Division. They were going to be in the fight. And so my daddy was here, he'd hug your neck. My mom would probably give you a kiss on the cheek. But he said that, he just kind of said this thing, and it always stuck in my mind. He said, funny thing, he said, my wife worked there too, I never knew what she did, and she never knew what I did till after the war. I mean, because people honored that back then. It's not everything's a book deal or a clickbait or something, and it's compartmentalized. And
that makes it harder.
It makes it very hard. And then when those people die, direct knowledge goes. I mean, Roswell, everybody talks about Roswell, and there's a couple other incidents that occurred. But it doesn't help when you go into a meeting, one of these.
Is this Tim Burchett saying that he has found verification that Roswell was a UFO? Is this like a sleight of hand way of saying that? I'm curious now. What do you guys think?
Secure meetings with a bureaucrat who's kind of a smart aleck, political appointee, and you have the career people that are usually their military officers, and you ask about a specific incident, and the direct quote to me was, we do not have data points on that, Congressman. And it was something that was a pretty documented case that had occurred, and there's a couple of them actually we talked about, and they bring in this smart aleck thinking he's uncovered everything, that we're just a bunch of idiots. I mean, he showed a bunch of, like one was a birthday balloon, the metallic ones that have some kind of metal in them or whatever, and then of course they look like what you can see is a flying saucer, and somebody takes a picture of outside the window of a 747 as they're flying by, and it looks like it's going, but it's really just stationary. And he said, well, and they slow it down and do all this stuff, and you actually see a cartoon character on this balloon. Obviously, this is, and nobody's even talking about that. I mean, that's just, even the folks, the so-called UFO community, they just dismiss those kind of things because they
actively trying to disprove some of the.
Yeah. And I felt, and his arrogant, smart aleck nature was not very beneficial. It was a complete waste of time.
See, this is the annoying thing when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, is that we have so many videos. There's millions of videos at this point, millions of photographs. Obviously, most of them are going to be BS, but there's going to be some that are real. And if you were to take this to like a court of law, in all honesty, I think a jury would probably come to the conclusion that we were being visited based on the amount of witnesses and video evidence and all this other stuff that we have. I mean, if this was a bank robbery, we'd have convicted the guys by now. I would say that, yeah, I think that there is enough evidence at this point, whether it be from civilians or Navy pilots, airmen from the Air Force, whoever, regular commercial pilots, people who have seen these things, filmed these things, caught them on radar. I think that we have enough evidence at this point to say that, yeah, something is happening here. Something is likely visiting us. I think that there's enough proof at this point. However, there's always going to be detractors in, both this community and the UFO community, and outside of the UFO community, who will continue to call us crazy because of what the subject is, no matter how much evidence we have, short of somebody coming out of one of these labs with an alien body or a piece of a flying saucer, something like that, or a whole ship, and being like, hey, look, this is not from Earth. And even then, you might have some people that come out and are like, that's not real, because that's just how people are these days. Everything is fake to these people, no matter how real it actually is.
And I have noticed when I walk into some of these meetings, the attitude changes. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I want to just...
That's how you know he's asking the right questions.
Sort of process what you think it would be like if the president decided to release images or videos that have been classified, or goes and says, there are these technologies and we believe they very well may be NHI, non-human intelligence.
Every time we ask for something specific, the military or the war pimps at the Pentagon, the intelligentsia as I call them, they hide behind national security. Yeah. If you remember, I had the bill a few years back. Yeah. It was 2 pages long to release it, release everything. And then the Democrat Schumer, actually, in the Senate, everybody thought, oh, Schumer's on board with us. And he wanted to release, his bill is 60 pages. Mm-hmm. And it created some structure similar to the Kennedy files. Dude, Kennedy was shot over 60 years ago, and they still won't release everything on that. And that's what they wanted to create, and everybody was cheering, oh, Schumer's on our side. No, he's not. If he was on our side, he would have pushed to done this years ago. The push is coming from people that haven't been here very long. Yeah. And some of our leadership now, after they've seen some things, they want to know.
But I want to get back to, like, you mentioned you think people are ready to hear this and make their own judgments and see what you've seen. I'm just wondering, like, I'm thinking back to the most historic moments in my life, like 9/11 comes to mind. I feel like this would be a moment like that. The president comes out and says, look what
comes on the news, said this is what it is, we don't know what it is.
Yeah, so
but the military industrial war complex, whatever you want to call it, is going to hide behind national security every dadgum time. They're going to claim that, and that's part of the problem. That's why we've got a president in the White House, I think, that gets it and is sick of it and thinks America maybe is not arrogant enough to believe that he's the end all.
Yeah. Robert heard something from...
If all of reality would come unglued from this, or at least our reality in the United States, if that's how crazy this is, I think that we have a right to know. I think that hiding this information is criminal at this point, and we need to find out what exactly is going on here. Because if there is some sort of alien threat to us, or interdimensional threat to us of some kind, or maybe there's some crazy breeding farm project going on, whatever they're doing to us, or experimenting on us, what have you, we deserve to know that. And honestly, with the way that society is now, I think that most people would probably be like, oh my god, they're farming us? Oh, okay, well, I still gotta go work tomorrow and pay my bills, so whatever. Whatever the situation may be, the news cycle will probably continue. It should be the most massive news story in the history of humanity. However, with the way people are now, with their short attention spans, I don't even know if it would have as massive of an effect as it should.
Some sources about Arrow reaching out to other agencies. We don't know exactly what this is about.
Yeah. And I have a lot of fear because of that. I don't like Arrow.
What do you know
I don't like him either.
What can you say about the...
No, Arrow, I don't trust him. Since Sean Kirkpatrick, he's a liar. I don't trust him. He was a proven liar. You can look into that. That's a story for another video. You could find the information about what he lied about with Skinwalker Ranch and everything else online. But the guy is a blatant liar, and everything with him was swamp gas and balloons, and he would trash talk anybody who took the topic seriously. The guy was clearly being paid by somebody above him to say these things, and even the new guy, I get people like him better, but I just don't like Arrow. I think, like, I'll look at the footage that they have, and I'll share that with you guys if I find it interesting, and they can't explain it, whatever. Usually that's a good sign it's something crazy to look at, but I just don't like Arrow. I really think that Arrow is nothing more than a modern Project Blue Book. That's my opinion on them. And all Project Blue Book was a disinformation campaign to get people to look away from UFOs.
They're reaching out. It seems like there's some kind of coordination about...
They want to be the ones to coordinate it. And in my opinion, they've been the problem in the past because their guy has attacked me, their former, and just said some things that were... if he actually said it, I didn't hear it. But if he said it, they're just untrue. And that's part of the problem, too, within this so-called UFO community. There's a lot of fighting, and everybody wants to And I get it. Somebody's selling T-shirts and baseball caps, and they got a book tour, and they want to do a movie and all this stuff. And I think there's plenty for everybody. I'm not worried about all that. I'm not caught up in all that. I just want to get the truth out. I think transparency, that's something I've been a big part of for a long time.
Okay. I just continue to wonder about if it's not the president coming out, do you see any authoritative figure that could come out with a level of credibility that would make Americans say,
unless somebody walks out of one of those labs with something and releases it before they disappear or commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 12 times. I don't think it's going to happen.
That's what I was saying. If somebody comes out with this stuff, they can expect to be a martyr in the process. So unless they're willing to give their lives for this, it's very apparent what will happen to them. Just like these 11 missing scientists that, as of today, it's 11 of them, some of them have links to UFOs. They've all been gone missing or turned up dead in very mysterious ways. And as of today, the government's starting to take notice, at least like the Trump administration and stuff, they're taking notice. But as for the rest of the government, I'm sure that there's a 3-letter agency that's probably behind this, because this all started around the time that Trump wanted to release the UAP files. And I think that there is something to this. Just like how 3.5 million documents almost got destroyed and went missing from the UAP files that were going to be released, that were then recovered, but somebody did attempt to get rid of them. There is somebody that does not want this information out, and it's very apparent that whatever is going on here, there is somebody that may very well be taking out these scientists. Now, I could be wrong, and it could be totally unrelated to that, but at a certain point, there's a connection. And if all of them were connected to this sort of thing, some of them were confirmed to be involved in the UFO community sort of stuff, then I think that we should probably take notice to that and start looking into who would actually want to stop these people from potentially running their mouths on this topic. Clearly, they're covering something up, and they don't want these people to be alive to elaborate on certain information that could be released in these document dumps. That's my theory anyway.
Happen.
Okay. And last one for you. What do we know, if anything, about these 10 scientists?
It's actually more than that, actually, if you go back a little farther. But we know that they were in our aeronautical defense industry, or complex, just all around the spectrum on that. And it's
with clearance, many of them
high level clearance. And you figure 10 of them, that we'll just say the 10. If there were 10 chefs across this country disappeared or died mysteriously, people start questioning what the heck. If there were 10 used car salesmen, dealerships, 10 preachers, 10 whatever, 10 masseuses, I don't care. I think America would probably take notice, and I think they finally are taking notice, because this.
People would freak out and think that there's a serial killer on the loose taking out people from a certain profession. They would think that it's unsafe for people of this profession to be roaming the streets alone at night or going on hikes or what have you. So, I mean, yeah, they would freak out. And I think that it's good that we're starting to take notice. And I think this needs to be thoroughly investigated. I really do.
This all fits in. And I know family members are going to say, well, they got nothing to do with the UFO. But generally, they don't talk. They keep it. Most of those guys and gals are so locked down, they keep their mouth shut. Because they didn't. Their nuclear secrets that they have would have already leaked out as well.
And maybe
that's exactly what I said earlier. They don't run their mouths. There's so many people that are like, well, if UFOs were visiting us, we'd know by now. There'd be people coming out with the information. No, not if they're being kept as secret as the nuclear codes and stuff like that. No, we wouldn't. Because if it were actually occurring, which it seems to be, and there is information leaking, by the way, but if this is truly a phenomenon that's happening, the odds of the people involved actually leaking the information and taking that risk is very low. Because if they were going to, as I mentioned earlier, we'd already have the nuclear codes and stuff like that leaked to the public, and we don't have that. So very clearly, these people are keeping their mouths shut, and the U.S. government, if it really wants to, it can keep a secret. That's the whole point of compartmentalizing the entirety of all of these programs into multiple smaller programs with individuals working on things that they don't even know what they're working on. They're just working on that specific part of a much greater project.
Futile effort, but is Congress looking at that at all? I haven't seen any.
Some of them are, but
investigative.
Somebody. It's always just us on the fringe that are doing it. There's a few of us that are involved, and
I don't know if I would call sitting members of Congress on the fringe, but okay.
I'd say there's about, I don't know, maybe 10 of us that are watching this thing pretty close and haven't peeled off yet. Because some of those people were, oddly enough, were people that I'd encouraged to come to meetings, because I wanted people that were objective and maybe didn't believe.
Yeah. Some
in
of the
any
scientists, you mean?
No. Some of the members of Congress.
Oh, gotcha.
And now some of them are some of the. I mean, they're the biggest fans of this thing that I've seen, actually, because they came from nothing and then they see these things and they can be skeptical of some of it, and some of it is questionable. But we've had so many obstacles on this thing. When Luna and Matt Gaetz and I went down to Florida to Eglin, they turned us away. We were told we were going to see. There were some pilots that wanted to talk to us, and they showed it. They briefed us on some stuff that was pretty incredible that had nothing to do with this subject. And then and Matt told them, said, we're going to subpoena you all. And I mentioned to him, I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell us the answer is 1.75 and the real answer is 1.74, and you're going to be held in contempt. I said, you're going to mess something up and you're going to get in some serious trouble here. I said, because Matt's pretty tough orator and he's a very tough attorney, and he got on the phone, and whoever Big Air Force is, because they came back in about an hour, and they took us upstairs and gave us a nice fruit tray at taxpayers' expense. And
I'm a taxpayer. I want a nice fruit tray. Where's my fruit tray? Where's all your fruit tray? I'm just kidding. But I do want to know answers here at the very least. So, if we want to use a metaphorical fruit tray as answers, I think we all at least deserve that much.
And then they brought the pilots in, and those are the kind of things I wish America could listen to and talk to, because it was very interesting. And I mean that just sort of that kind of lit the fuse for a lot of members when that deal went down.
All right, I will leave it here. Is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't talk about now?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm as frustrated as America is. I see people say, I wish Burchett would shut up about this, but you all ask me about it. I don't set up the interviews.
Who is saying for this man to shut up? Who's saying that we don't want to hear about this? I want to hear about this. I'm sure all of you want to hear about this. Who is out there with the interest of wanting this man to stop talking about this? I would love to know who it is that wants these people to stop digging into the UAP topic, because that is insane to me. If there is something here, we should know about it. And if they're willing to tell us anything, we should be listening with our ears wide open and gathering all the information that we possibly can, regardless of what political aisle they're in or whatever. As long as they have the clearance and ability to find out and they know more than we do, we should be listening, because that's how you learn.
I'm glad to talk about it. I just I'm very frustrated with it too. I don't know that we'll ever get to the bottom of it unless Trump does it, or unless one of these scientists walks out of one of these private labs and says what's going on. So I would hope, and people, and let me clarify something too. People say you need to go to Area 51, you know, to Wright-Patterson, you need to go here or there. As soon as we announce we're going to go there, I don't think we're going to find. I think we'll probably find an empty warehouse. Yeah. It's going to take the President of the United States to step up and say this has gone on long enough. We've got to get to the bottom of this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, they're just going to move whatever they have. It's not going to be there when they go look. Anyway, guys, that was Tim Burchett. Let me know what you guys think of this down in the comments. We're going to go ahead now and hop into the UFO footage that I wanted to share with you guys. The first footage is from Arrow that I found quite interesting. And the other piece of footage I want to share with you guys comes from the Hidden Underbelly 2.0. Friend of mine, go check him out after this video is done. His video will be linked down in the video description as always. And let's go ahead and hop into the footage that I have for you today. So as I mentioned, I have two more pieces of UFO footage that I want to share with you guys. So first, this piece of footage comes to us from Arrow and was filmed over Europe on January 1st of 2021. It was filmed by a military onboard FLIR display sensor on a platform they are not willing to disclose, and the investigation for Arrow is still ongoing. 5 years later, they don't know what it is, which I think makes that pretty fair to assume it's fair enough to share with you guys. So check this out. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and then stick around for that other piece of footage that I said I'd share with you guys as well. Let's check out the footage. So as you guys saw, it shows this orb-like object floating around doing these crazy maneuvers in the sky. It's very apparent why they can't figure out what it is, because it's making maneuvers that we simply just don't do. It doesn't make any sense, and if you guys want to try and decipher what you're looking at, be my guest, see if you can figure it out. I really wish that this was released in some other platform of footage where we could actually see like the colors and everything better, but it seems like FLIR footage is the only thing that the government is willing to give us for some reason. However, the next video is not in FLIR, and this was captured by a civilian, and as I mentioned, this footage was sent to me from the Hidden Underbelly 2.0. He's down in the video description, and let's go ahead and check out this footage. We'll talk a little more on it afterwards, and I'll give you the details on where this was filmed and everything else. So this video was filmed on March 27th, 2026 over Helena, Mississippi, specifically apparently at a McDonald's near Moss Point, according to some Redditors who apparently tracked down the exact location of where this was filmed. I don't know how they did that, but they got like GPS coordinates and stuff, which is crazy. But if that's correct, then that's the location. And I want to thank Hidden Underbelly for sending me this. It's a very phenomenal piece of footage. You can clearly tell there's no visible means of propulsion. It just looks like a Tic Tac hanging out in the sky. Whatever it is, it's weird. If you guys want to try and debunk it and figure out what this thing is that's just hanging out there, be my guest. I'm currently not sure what this is. But with that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you smash the subscribe button down below, all that good stuff. Leave a comment. It all helps the channel. And I'll see you guys again in the next one. And don't forget, please check us out for the 420 live stream coming up. I would love to have you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys again in the next one. Peace.